Okay, guys. So in before section, I completed discussion about constructor injection, setter based dependency injection, and field based dependency injection. So in today onwards, I will start Spring Boot classes. Okay, in today onwards, I will start Spring Boot classes. So up to this, I completed Spring Framework. Okay, in Spring Framework, I discussed about what is tight coupling and loose coupling, difference between tight coupling and loose coupling, and how to make tight coupling to loose coupling, and different types of configurations. Okay, I covered Java based configuration and annotation based configuration, and some annotations also I covered in that configuration part. And I discussed about what is IoT container, how many types of IoT containers are available in Spring Boot, and what is dependency injection, how many type, how many ways to inject, how many ways are there for dependence injection. To all these topics I covered in Spring Framework. Okay, so in today class I will start Spring Boot. Okay, so before going to the Spring Boot, we need to know about the what are the drawbacks of Spring Framework. Okay, what are the drawbacks of Spring Framework? I already told some drawbacks for Spring Framework. Mm, if anyone knows about the drawbacks, so just unmute yourself and explain. Tell me about the drawbacks. Okay, okay, no problem. Are you able to see my screen? Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, basically, in Spring Framework, the major drawback is manually developers need to do a configuration part. Okay, see the first one. Basically, Spring based application have a lot of configurations. Okay, I will tell what is configuration. I already told in second class, but again I will tell by showing one example. Okay, see, basically Spring based application have a lot of configurations. See, configuration is but when we develop configurations is nothing but when we develop any Spring MVC web application using Spring MVC, then we need to sorry, configuration is nothing. Sorry, Fred. When we develop any type of application, whether it is a Spring Security or Spring MVC web application or Hibernate application or any application, then we need to configure. See, when we try to build any application, okay, if it is a MVC application, then we need to configure component scan, dispatcher servlet, view resolver, web jars, and some other things. Okay, when we want to use Hibernate or JPA in that application, then again we need to configure data source, entity manager, or transaction manager, and some other things. When in your application you need a cache or messaging queue or NoSQL database. For that, we need to configure cache configuration, messaging queue configuration, NoSQL database configuration. See, configuration is nothing but a for example, at a time you want to build multiple applications. Okay, at a time you want to build two Spring MVC web applications. Okay, in the two web applications also you need to configure this component scan. Okay, component scan, dispatcher servlet, view resolver, web jars, and some other things also we need to configure. Okay, that means, see, I'll give one example. See, this is the one application, Spring MVC Hibernate Crude Web Application. So in this application, configuration part is there. So this is the one small application. In this small application, I want to use Hibernate. Okay, I want to use Spring Data JPA or any other things. Means I need to configure this code. Okay, if I want to use any database or Hibernate Spring Data JPA, then I will use this Spring Data source, this configuration part. Configuration part means మీరు ఎన్ని అప్లికేషన్స్ చేసినా, ఓకే, ఇఫ్ యూ బిల్డ్ ఎనీ నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ అప్లికేషన్, సో అన్ని అప్లికేషన్స్ కి కూడా ఈ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ పార్ట్ చూడండి, ఈ హైబర్నెట్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ ప్లస్ ఈ డాటా సోర్స్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్. అంటే ఏదైనా ఈ డేటాబేస్ కనెక్ట్ చేయాలంటే ఈ డాటా సోర్స్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ పార్ట్ చేయాలి. అదే ఏదైనా హైబర్నెట్ కానీ ఏదైనా సెక్షన్ ఫ్యాక్టరీ హైబర్నెట్ సెక్షన్ ఫ్యాక్టరీ కనెక్ట్ చేయాలనుకుంటే ఇది కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ చేయాలి. సో ఇక్కడ ఏంటంటే ద కోడ్ ఈజ్ సేమ్, అంటే ప్రతిదానికి ఈ కోడే రాస్తాం. ఓకే, ఆ హైబర్నెట్ డాటా సోర్స్ ఆ కోడే రాస్తాం. బట్ మనం ఎన్ని అప్లికేషన్స్ క్రియేట్ చేస్తే అన్ని అప్లికేషన్స్ కూడా రాయాలి. ఇదిగోండి వ్యూ, ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్ టు కాన్ఫిగర్ రిజాల్వర్, then we will use this configuration part. If you want to configure this, if you want to handle this resolver, then we will use this resolver part. అంటే మనం ఎన్ని అప్లికేషన్స్ రాసినా సరే ప్రతిసారి ఈ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ పార్ట్ మస్ట్ అండ్ షుడ్ గా రాయాలి. దెన్ ఓన్లీ ఇట్ విల్ వర్క్ ఫైన్, అదర్వైజ్ ఇట్ కాంట్ వర్క్. ఓకే, సో డెవలపర్ కి నార్మల్ గా ఆ అప్లికేషన్ డెవలప్మెంట్ కొన్న ఈ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ పార్ట్, అంటే సమ్ టైమ్స్ హీ నీడ్స్ టు డూ ఏ బిగ్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ డాటా. అంటే ఇది స్మాల్ అప్లికేషన్స్ కాబట్టి సెట్ వ్యూ క్లాస్, సెట్ ప్రిఫిక్స్, సెట్ సఫిక్స్ అంటే సరిపోద్ది. బట్ బిగ్ అప్లికేషన్స్ లో ద కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ కోడ్ ఈజ్ మోర్. ఓకే, అరౌండ్ 20 to 30 లైన్స్ ఉంటుంది. సో ఎవ్రీ టైమ్ ద సేమ్ కోడ్ ఈ నీడ్స్ టు implement again and again. That is very difficult for developers. Okay, so ప్రతిసారి ఇదే ప్రాసెస్ చేయాలంటే అది డెవలపర్స్ కి వెరీ డిఫికల్ట్. సి in your MVC applications, Spring MVC application, we need to connect with database. Okay, మనం గ్యారంటీగా database కనెక్ట్ చేయాలి, అదర్వైజ్ ఇట్స్ కాంట్ టు data స్టోర్ చేసుకోలేం. we can't store the data. then every time we need to add these properties. ఓకే, మీరు 5 అప్లికేషన్స్ యూజ్ చేస్తే 5 టైమ్స్ ఈ ప్రాపర్టీస్ యాడ్ చేయాలి. అదే హైబర్నెట్, ఇన్ యువర్ అప్లికేషన్ we need to use hibernate tool. Okay, we need to use hibernate properties. then again we need to add these properties. Again we need to add this data in configuration file, otherwise we can't include this hibernate properties. ఓకే, సో మనం ఏ అప్లికేషన్ బిల్డ్ చేయాలనుకుంటున్నామో ఆ అప్లికేషన్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ డాటా, ఓకే, డెవలపర్స్ ఓన్లీ విల్ ఇంక్లూడ్ ది కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ డాటా మాన్యువల్లీ. ఓకే, అంటే డెవలపర్స్ ఏదైనా అప్లికేషన్ బిల్డ్ చేస్తే డెవలపర్స్ మాన్యువల్గా కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ డాటాని ఇంక్లూడ్ చేసుకోవాల్సిందే. ఓకే, ఫర్ దట్ developers compare to application implementation part, this configuration part takes more time. ఓకే, డెవలపర్స్ ఏంటంటే ఆ అప్లికేషన్ ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేసిన దానికన్నా ఈ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్, ఓకే, ఈ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ పార్ట్ అనేది ఎక్కువ టైం తీసుకుంటుంది. సో దట్స్ వై the major drawback is this one only. The major drawback is developers needs to configure manually. Okay, all the required data developers need to configure manually. So that is the major drawback. Okay, so what is the drawback of Spring framework? Anyone? What are the drawback of Spring framework? Please unmute yourself and answer the question. Okay, in current industry using Spring framework is very less. Okay, till now it's no problem, but today onwards when we start Spring Boot, it's very important, Spring Boot. Okay, so try to understand that. So what is the drawbacks of Spring framework?
Hello, sir.
చెప్పండి.
Actually, when we develop a Spring MVC application, we need to configure components, scan, dispatcher, servlet, way resolver, and WebJar, sir. So we need to configure these. We need to configure these things when you use a Spring framework.
So not only those dependencies, when we based on your application, okay, based on your application you need some dependencies. Okay, for example, in your application we want to add view resolver or hibernate properties or section factory properties or data source properties or Spring security properties. Okay, based on our application, if you want to add any dependencies in Spring framework, developers only add those dependencies manually. Developers only do the configuration manually. That is the major drawback. Developers will do the configuration part manually. That is the major drawback. Not only these configurations, this is the small example. Okay, జస్ట్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయడానికి ఈ డాటా సోర్స్ లోకల్ సెక్షన్ ఫ్యాక్టరీ నేను మీకు జస్ట్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయడానికి మీకు చెప్పాను. ఓకే, బట్ రియల్ టైంలో ఈ 5 ఉండవు. నాట్ ఓన్లీ దీస్ 5, 20 to 25 we need to configure 20 to 25 lines, sorry 20 to 25 topics. వ్యూ రిజాల్వర్ ఉంటుంది, స్ప్రింగ్ సెక్యూరిటీ ఉంటుంది, స్ప్రింగ్ ఎంవిసి ఉంటుంది, స్ప్రింగ్ క్లౌడ్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ ఉంటుంది. వీ హ్యావ్ మెనీ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్స్ that we need to developers. If you use Spring framework, developers needs to configure many things. That's why it is that much tough for developers. But in Spring Boot, okay, but in Spring Boot the main advantage is, the main feature is auto configuration. Okay, the main feature is auto configuration. Spring framework lo it manually, developers manually configure the files, but in Spring Boot developers, it's a Spring Boot automatically configure the data. Okay, Spring Boot automatically configure, take care about the configuration data. Okay, if you add one single dependency, then it will include all the required libraries. Okay, it will take care about that configuration data. Spring Boot will take care about the configuration data. Why? Because the main feature of Spring Boot is auto configuration. Auto configuration means what? We no need to do manually. It is automatically, it will take care about the configuration files. Okay, see I will explain now. See, cache configuration, message key configuration, NoSQL database configuration. Like this, we need to configure many things in our application. See, these are the some mostly used configuration data in that application. Okay, ఈ applications లో ఇన్ని ఇన్ని కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ డాటా లేదు. ఓకే, ఈ అప్లికేషన్స్ లో ఎంత కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ డాటా లేదు. సో బట్ ఇన్ రియల్ టైమ్ we need to include all the configuration files. Components can dispatcher, servlet, view resolver, web jars, data source, entity manager. Developers only manually configure all those dependencies. Okay, developers manually configure all those dependencies in Spring framework. But coming to Spring Boot, okay, for this problem Spring Boot is the solution. Spring Boot automatically configures the configurations based on the jar dependencies that we add to our project. See, Spring Boot automatically configures the configurations based on the jar dependencies that we add to our project. Okay, so jar dependencies means I will tell. Okay, ఇప్పుడు అర్థమైంది కదా వాట్ ఈస్ ద ప్రాబ్లమ్ ఆఫ్ స్ప్రింగ్ ఫ్రేమ్వర్క్, దెన్ వాట్ ఈస్ ద సొల్యూషన్ ఆఫ్ దట్. ఓకే, సో అదర్ దెన్ ప్రియాంక, సమ్వాట్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ వాట్ ఈస్ ద ప్రాబ్లమ్ ఆఫ్ స్ప్రింగ్ ఫ్రేమ్వర్క్. సో ప్రియాంక కాకుండా ఇంకెవరైనా చెప్పండి, వాట్ ఈస్ ద ప్రాబ్లమ్ ఆఫ్ మోహన్, పోల మోహన్. శశి, సాహితి. సో ఎవరో ఒకరు చెప్పండి, వాట్ ఈస్ ద ప్రాబ్లమ్ ఆఫ్ స్ప్రింగ్ ఫ్రేమ్వర్క్.
The developer need to do a lot of configuration while developing the application. If we use the Spring framework.
మోహన్. క్వశ్చన్స్ అడుగుతాను, ఇప్పుడు ఎవరెవరైతే ఆన్సర్ చెప్పలేదో వాళ్ళందరినీ ఇప్పుడే లెఫ్ట్ చేసేస్తాం. ఓకే, వాట్ ఆర్ ది డ్రాబ్యాక్స్ ఆఫ్ స్ప్రింగ్ ఫ్రేమ్వర్క్. మోహన్ జోషి, ఐ వాంట్ ఆన్సర్ ఫ్రమ్ దీస్ టూ గైస్. జోషి జోషి. ఓకే, సో the major drawbacks are these one only. See, now I will tell what is the how to create a Spring Boot application. Okay, how to create a Spring Boot application. So listen carefully. సో నేను ఇప్పుడు క్లాస్ చెప్పింది వినలేదంటే మీరు నెక్స్ట్ 3 years ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ పెట్టండి, 4 years ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ పెట్టండి అయినా సరే నేను పెట్టను. ఓకే, సో నేను చెప్పింది చేసి ఆన్సర్ చెప్పి తర్వాత ఇచ్చిన టాస్క్లు కంప్లీట్ చేస్తేనే మీకు రెజ్యూమే ఫార్వర్డ్ అవుద్ది. ఓకే, లేదంటే ఎవరు చెప్పినా, శ్రీను సార్ చెప్పినా అవ్వదు, ఎవరు చెప్పినా అవ్వదు. నెక్స్ట్ వన్ ఈస్ వాట్ ఈస్ ద how to create a Spring Boot application. How to create a Spring Boot application. How to create a Spring Boot application. First one is by using Spring Initializr. By using Spring Initializr. Second one is by using IDEs. By using IDEs. So I will explain in both ways. So listen carefully. First, we will use IntelliJ IDE, right? Open IntelliJ IDE. Go click on new project. Okay. Here you will select project name. Okay. Spring Boot. Spring Boot project creation. Project creation. And select language Java. Okay, there are Kotlin, Groovy, HTML is there. Mostly they will use Java only, Java or Groovy. Okay, build system Maven and Gradle. So select Maven. Okay, after that you select your JDK version, Java version. Next, so it automatically include some group ID and artifact ID. So group ID is nothing but a project name. Artifact ID is nothing but a group ID is nothing but a package name. Okay. Group ID is package name. Artifact ID is project name. Okay. Next, create. See, we created Spring Boot project. In this form.xml, we will add all those required dependencies. All those required dependencies. Next, this is the one way. This is the one way. Second one is by using Spring Initializr. Second one is by using Spring Initializr. Start.spring.io. So this is the website to create Spring Boot project. This is the website to create Spring Boot project. See, first one is select project type, either Maven or Gradle or Gradle Groovy. So select Maven version, select language, and these versions are there, right? 3.5.0, 3.4.3, 3.3.3. These snapshot means unstable versions. Okay. These snapshot versions means unstable versions. Okay. M1 means maintenance versions. Okay. Select either 3.3.8 or 3.4.2. Okay. Select these normal versions only. This snapshot means this is the unstable versions. Okay. So here we did only small application, but here no problem. But in your real-time projects, don't select the snapshot versions. Okay, there might be a chances to get configuration issues, not configuration issues, compatibility issues. Okay, next select group ID. Group ID is nothing but a package name. com.example.visible campus dot example. This is the package name. This is the package name. Next, artifact ID means what is an artifact ID? ఏంటి?
Project name.
Right. Artifact ID is nothing but a project name. Spring Boot first project. First project. So select this one. See. And packaging either is jar or var. What is the difference between jar or var? Jar is nothing but a Java archive. Var is nothing but a web archive. That means if you build a standalone applications, then we will packaging that application in jar. Okay. If you build a enterprise or web applications, then you packaging the application in var. Okay. Select either 23, 21 or 17. Okay. Here I will select 21. I will select 17 only. Next, dependencies. We have many dependencies are available in Spring Boot. That is web dependency. Another one is Spring Data JPA dependency. If you want to in your project, if you use Hibernate and MySQL any database, okay, then we will use Spring Data JPA dependency. See, save data in SQL stores with the Java persistence API using Spring Data and Hibernate. Okay, it is nothing but it saves the data in Spring Data in Hibernate. Okay, next, if you want to add MySQL database in our project, okay, manam if you want to add MySQL data means then we will use MySQL driver. Okay, so chun. So if we want add any my drivers, okay, MySQL driver or based on your requirement, you add the database. Okay, that means if you add this MySQL driver, it add all the database required, all the databases. Okay, not all the databases, not all the databases. Uh, any idea about drivers? That means it will automatically connect with database. Okay, from Java applications to it connect with MySQL drivers. Okay, next one is Lombok. Next one is Lombok. Lombok is nothing but a create one class. Here create new class student. Okay, this is the one class. In this class, I want to declare some fields. Private int id, comma, private string name, private string address. So I declared three fields. I declared here three fields. I want to add getters and setters. Then here create generate getters and setters, right? See, id name string. Here we created getters and setters. So if you want to, okay, if you add manually in these getters and setters, then there may be a chances of increase the code lines. Okay, increase the code lines. So instead of manually adding these getters and setters, okay, instead of manually adding these getters and setters, not only getters and setters, generate constructors for these three classes. constructors also created. Next, generate toString method. ToString method also created. Like this, if you are manually, you are doing all, including all the getters and setters and constructors and toString methods, right? So without adding these setters and without adding manually, there there is a small option called lombok. Okay, lombok is the dependency. Okay, lombok is the dependency, and java, it is a java annotation. It helps to reduce boilerplate code. That means these all are the getters and setters are the all are mandatorily we need. Okay, but in that, simply the creation of that getters and setters is simple. Okay, మనం getters ని setters ని సింపుల్ గా క్రియేట్ చేసుకోవచ్చు. బట్ అది ఎందుకు మనం మాన్యువల్ గా లైన్స్ ని ఇంక్లూడ్ getters and setters ని మనం రాస్తే, it will take around 30 to 40 lines. Okay, it will take around 30 to 40 lines. Then the number of code is increases, the number of lines of code is increases. If the code increases, the readability is decreases. So for that purpose, the spring framework uses this lombok annotation. Okay, it reduces the boilerplate code. Okay, once open, I will add these two dependencies: Spring Data, Spring Boot Starter Web. Where we need to add these dependencies? This is the another dependency called Lombok. Load this Maven changes. See, in real time, they will send like one link. Okay, by using that link, we are able to, we will add all those dependencies. Okay, in real time, we are not using dependencies from Maven repository. Okay, they will send one link. Okay, by that link only, we will add all those dependencies. So this, see here, this is 4J. See, based on your required version, you will select the dependency. We will add any one dependencies like this. Okay, in real time, mostly they will provide dependencies. Okay, your architects will provide dependencies. If they not provide dependencies, they will send one link. Okay, they will send one link. It is like this only. So by using that link, we will search the dependency and use that dependency. Okay, like this, we will add the dependencies. Just download Spring Boot from unknown in central. Okay, I will show now. Bacha. dot pc dot spring boot demo for project creation. Select add dependency. Now I will add only single dependency. Okay, click on generate. It will generate the one zip file. Open IntelliJ IDE. First unzip that zip file. See, it will download one zip file. Right click on that. Extract all. It will download in this path. Extract. Okay. It will download. Then open this unzip file. Right click on that and show more options. Open folder as IntelliJ IDE. Trust project. New window. This load is the mandatory. We need to must and shouldly we need to load that Maven changes. Okay, then this is the Maven structure. Okay, then this is the Maven structure. This is the Maven structure. Now I will explain this Maven structure. See, this is the project name. Demo for project creation is the project name. This dot Maven is the, see, in this dot Maven, it provide one wrapper classes. Okay, it provide one wrapper classes. It's described. This is the Maven structure. Okay, this dot Maven file described. This is the Maven structure. Next, inside source folder. Okay, inside source folder we add the development code. Okay, inside source folder we will add the development code. Next, here inside source folders developers will add the development code. Next, the source folder, it contains one main folder and a test folder. In this main folder, developers will implement the logic. Okay, then developers will implement the main core logic. In this main folder, developers will implement the main core logic. In this test folder, developers will write the JUnit test cases. Okay, whether the application is working fine or not. Developers will write the test cases for this application, for that application. So main means developers will implement the main core logic. In this test folders, developers will write the JUnit test cases for our application, whether the application is working fine or not. Okay. Then next, this git attributes and this git ignore is the just 10. It provides some documentation. Okay, this help.md, these all are some unrelated files about this project. Okay, some unrelated files about this project. It provide just one documentation. Next, inside main folder we have Java. Inside this Java, developers will write the main core logic. Okay, and another folder called resources. Resources, it keep all the UI related static files and properties files and configuration files. Okay, so in the resource folder, it contains all the UI related static property files, property files and configurations files. Next, yes, in the static is nothing but a in the static folder, developers will keep all CSS, JavaScript, and we need to upload some image means all the images will store in this static files. Templates files, we will keep all UI HTML templates. We will keep all the UI HTML templates. Properties files, we define the all the application level properties. Okay, application level properties. See, here first one is project name. First one is project name. So in that project name we have source folder is there. Inside source folder it contains main folder and test folder. It contains main folder and test folder. Test folder. This main folder, inside this main folder again it contains Java folder and resource folder. Java folder and resource folder. Inside this manner, it contains Java folder and resource folder. Java folder contains application main logic. Application main logic or the implementation part of the our application. Okay. Next, resource part. Okay. Another folder is resource. Resources. Inside this resource folder, we have static templates. Next, application dot properties. Application dot properties. See, in the static file, we will keep all the CSS, okay, and front end code, whether it is a CSS code or HTML, JavaScript code, or all the images, okay. One application build cheyadaniki కొన్ని images kuda we require some images also. So in this static file, we keep CSS, JavaScript, and images static files. And image static files. Okay, in this template folders, keep all the UI HTML templates. Keep UI HTML templates. In this application.properties file, we defined all the application level properties. Define all the application level properties. Okay, in this test file, we will write the JUnit test case of the applications. Okay, we will write the JUnit test case of the applications. This is the Maven project structure, and these are the it provide the documentations. Some documentations about the application, not our application. Some documentation about the Maven structure like that. This Maven W and Maven W.cmd is the Maven wrapper class. Maven W means Maven W.command. See, this Maven W is for Maven W is for Windows, not Windows, MacBook. Okay, Linux and MacBook. For those systems, this Maven W will use. Okay, Maven W.cmd will use. Maven W CMD for the Windows. Okay, Maven W CMD is for Windows. Maven W CMD is for Windows. See, what is the main purpose? This means we can use these Maven wrapper scripts to build and run Spring Boot Maven project. ఓకే, మనం Maven project ని బిల్డ్ చేయడానికి రన్ చేయడానికి యూజ్ అవుతుంది వితౌట్ ఇన్స్టాలింగ్ Maven in our local machines. Okay, without installing this Maven tool. Okay, without installing this Maven tool, this Maven scripts will use to build and run our Maven project. See, these are the life cycles of the Maven. I will tell Maven life cycles after 2 to 3 classes after. Okay, next, last one is pom.xml. We already know what is the purpose of pom.xml. It include when we add any dependency. See, in this application I added only one dependency, that is Spring Boot starter web dependency. Okay, why Spring Boot is auto configuration? Why in Spring Boot the main feature is auto configuration, right? How it automatically configure the all those applications means, see, inside this web dependency contain another some dependencies. See, inside this web dependency it contain Spring Boot starter dependency, Spring Boot JSON dependency, Tomcat dependency, and Spring Web dependency, Spring Web MVC dependency. Okay, that means inside the single dependency again it will contain another some dependencies. Okay, in Spring Framework this Tomcat server is there na. In Spring Boot it is the default server. Okay, that means we no need to download this Tomcat server. Okay, in Spring Boot we no need to download the Tomcat server. When we add the Spring Boot starter web dependency, it automatically include the Spring Boot starter Tomcat server. Okay, but in Spring Framework when you add we need to externally download the Tomcat server. We need to externally download the Tomcat server and we need to do the configuration for Spring Framework. That in our application we need to do configuration for this Tomcat server, and we need to download the, after completion of your application, if it is working fine, then we need to download that application and deploy into this Tomcat server, and after that we will check whether the application is working fine or not. Okay, but in Spring Boot those all methods are not there. When you add the single dependency, this dependency will take care all about the servers. Okay, automatically it will deploy into this application also, Tomcat server also. That is the main advantage of Spring Boot. When you add single dependency, it contains some other dependencies. Okay, it contains some other dependencies. Okay, it contains the other dependencies. So no need to do configurations for that. See here, once observe this one. Here we are not mentioning any versions. See, this is the Spring Framework version. But here we are not mentioning any versions, web dependency versions, test versions, any versions. Okay, here we were only mentioning Java version and Spring Boot version and this model version. But we are not maintain. Okay, we will no need to maintain this dependency versions in Spring Boot. But coming to the Spring Framework, in Spring Framework, developers manually maintain the developers only maintains the dependencies of the application. Developers only maintains the dependencies of the application. See, when you open any pom.xml, See, once open this pom.xml, in this, see, developers will maintain all those versions. Okay, so ante ikkada major problem entante meer add chesina prati dependency ki, okay, manam compatibility issue raakunda chusukovali. Okay, what is compatibility issue means, here we are adding this Spring Web MVC. Okay, here we are adding this Spring Web MVC and we are adding this Spring ORM tool. So for Web MVC, we are using 5.1.0. For ORM tool, we are using 5.3.5. Okay, but here we didn't get any compatibility issues. Why? Because here we will take first developer checks the version, చెక్ చేస్తాడు ఆ వెర్షన్స్ కి ఏమైనా కంపాక్టబిలిటీ ఇష్యూస్ రావచ్చా లేదా అనేది. హౌ మీన్స్, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ దిస్ వెబ్ ఎంవిసి ఇస్ ద ఓల్డర్ వెర్షన్, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇట్ ఈస్ ద థర్డ్ వెర్షన్. Okay, web MVC is the third versions. This Hibernate version is fifth versions. Then definitely we will face some compatibility issues. Okay, definitely we will face some compatibility issues. But in Spring Boot, that problem is not there. Why? Because Spring Boot will take care all the versions. Okay, మనం ఏదైనా డిపెండెన్సీ యాడ్ చేస్తే ఆ డిపెండెన్సీ స్టేబుల్ వెర్షన్స్ ని ఇది ఆటోమేటికల్ గా యాడ్ చేసుకుంటుంది. చూడండి, స్ప్రింగ్ బూట్ స్టార్టర్ పేరెంట్. Okay, inside this, okay, this parent dependency will manage all the versions. Okay, మనం ఏదైతే డిపెండెన్సీస్ యాడ్ చేసామో ఆ డిపెండెన్సీ వెర్షన్స్ అన్నీ కూడా ఈ పేరెంట్ డిపెండెన్సీ విల్ మేనేజ్. ఓకే, just click on this, click on control and this artifact id, at all the versions types, all the versions of these dependencies. ఈ డిపెండెన్సీస్ యొక్క వెర్షన్స్ అనేది స్ప్రింగ్ బూట్ స్టార్టర్ పేరుని చూపిస్తుంది. ఇప్పుడు నా ల్యాప్టాప్ లో వర్క్ అవ్వట్లేదు, రేపు చూపిస్తాం. ఓకే, సో దిస్ ఈస్ ద project structure. Okay, when we add this dependencies, okay, when we add these dependencies, it will include all the external libraries. Okay, it will include all the, see, Jakarta libraries, Jackson libraries. When we add this single dependency, it will include all the required libraries. అంటే మేవన్ వాళ్ళ యూజ్ ఏంటంటే ఈ డిపెండెన్సీ ఇంక్లూడ్ చేస్తే మేవన్కి తెలుస్తుంది, ఓ ఇది స్ప్రింగ్ బూట్ వెబ్ డిపెండెన్సీ ఇంక్లూడ్ చేశాడు అంటే ఇది వెబ్ అప్లికేషన్ బిల్డ్ చేయాలనుకుంటున్నాడు. సో ఐ వాంట్ టు ఇంక్లూడ్ ఆల్ ది రిక్వైర్డ్ లైబ్రరీస్. అంటే ఒక వెబ్ అప్లికేషన్స్కి ఏ డిపెండెన్సీస్ని, ఒక వెబ్ అప్లికేషన్ బిల్డ్ చేయడానికి ఏ లైబ్రరీస్ కావాలో అవన్నీ నేను యాడ్ చేస్తానని మేవన్ అనేది అన్ని రిక్వైర్డ్ లైబ్రరీస్ని యాడ్ చేస్తుంది. దట్ ఈస్ ద మేవన్ వర్క్. Here the only happy thing is just we need to add this single dependency. That's it. Developers no need to take care about the versions, no need to include any unnecessary libraries. Maven only take care about all those libraries and Maven will manage all the versions. This is all about project structure and how to include dependencies in pom.xml. Okay, hello, అర్థమైందమ్మా? సందీప్, శ్రీనివాస్, ప్రియాంక, ఆదర్శ్, క్వెషన్స్ అడుగుతానని లెఫ్ట్ అవ్వకండి.